Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Curtis Review. Okay, keep it down, let's go, come on. I've been banking up a lot of movies to talk about on the channel, so today we're going to be doing a horror double feature. That's right, 2 movies, baby. Before we get started, leave a comment below if you have seen Mandy, Possessor, or both. And also, let me know if there's any horror movies you've watched recently that you've enjoyed that I might be able to talk about on the channel. That's right, we're talking Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough. Directed by Panos Cosmatos, with cinematography by Benjamin Loeb. Mandy is a dark fantasy novel come to life. I would say this movie isn't scary in how you usually think horror movies are. Frightening and disturbing things happen, but they're not scary in the traditional sense. It feels more like fantasy action with horror elements. Nicolas Cage is back for some gonzo action, playing his that action hero kind of character as the character Red. He does what he needs to do here, but I would argue this movie is an elevated performance for him. He really brings the heat in several scenes, one of which is a gut-wrenching moment in which he's been eternally severed from the woman he loves. The concept of Mandy is simple on the surface, with some visually striking and often disturbing scenes. But the nuance that Panos Cosmatos allows to ripple and bubble up on the edges is really what makes this movie shine. It doesn't hold your hand in world building either. A cult that moves amongst the Shadow Mountains and has been kidnapping women and increasing their numbers, and even doing evil deeds with demonic creatures clad with leather, spikes, and motorbikes. The aforementioned cult, Children of the New Dawn, is led by none other than Jeremiah Sand, a psychedelic-pushing, Lovecraftian, at least to me, entity with the perfect cult leader look. Linus Roach is disgusting in this role. He really hams it up. And I would go so far to say that he's become an iconic movie villain here. I mean, and this is your spoiler warning, he makes a man watch him and his cult burn his wife alive. And he's smiling and gleeful the entire time. In a previous haunting scene, we find Mandy after she's been dosed and kidnapped by the Children of the New Dawn, and Sand reveals his aspirations as a musical artist, playing some of his proggy folk-inspired music as the LSD or psychedelics start to kind of kick in the scene. Given Jeremiah's background as a spoiled San Diegan who was emotionally abused as a child, and his dad was a hedge fund manager, we kind of see the building blocks of a typical cult leader, especially that he's from San Diego. San Diego has a history with cults, occult activity, and weird human behavior in general. So Jeremiah, with this background and the sort of madness that he's let seep in, has allowed himself to, any woman he comes across, his to take and do with what he pleases, regardless of whether she likes it or not. And this is what puts Mandy, played by Andrea Riseborough, in his sights. The disruption of peace that the Children of the New Dawn take upon Red and Mandy's idyllic life in the Shadow Mountains is, well, disruptive. And while it makes for excellent revenge cinema, it's upsetting. The film lingers in uncomfortable emotions, perhaps creating some of the best scenes in the movie. The action stuff is cool, sleek, and stylish, but the quiet wonder and grief-strickenness is where the movie really stands out. It feels as if you're reading a chapter book that you found in the hidden back shelves of a used bookstore. And the fonts, text, and soundscapes in the movie really add to that feeling throughout. It feels like you are sharing in Red's secret world, his dilemma, his pain and fear and anger. A silent eye in the background, gasping towards the screen, grieving along with Red, and wishing that he gets the revenge that he deserves. Andrea Riseborough, who just so happens to be the title character in the other movie we're discussing today, Possessor, is excellent as Mandy. Oh shit, we got an Andrea Riseborough on everybody. The context and makeup given to her make her even more effective on screen. Her eyes piercing deep within your soul as she looks at you. I've seen some angles that the movie may be seen as misogynistic. Man's wife gets killed, man seeks revenge, man kills wife's killer, wife is seen as a symbol of purity and a plot device only. That's the dime novel vibe of the movie. I recognize that that could be seen as problematic, but I believe that Cosmatos and crew are prescient enough and thoughtful enough that They went into this trying to make a great horror action revenge movie. I think it also diminishes what Andrea Riseborough's like total appeal is on screen. I think she's doing a lot, like I said, with her eyes, facial expressions, defiance that she carries that is crucial to the events of the movie that follow her death. Additionally, the way that this actor can transform into a new role, looking very little like they do in their real life, Riseborough is definitely a talent to keep an eye out for, and I am super excited to see what else she does down the line. Her look is very Tilda Swinton, and she's like this ever-shifting changeling. Good shit, man. What follows after Jeremiah's attempted rape of Mandy, to which she responds to his shriveled dick with laughter, sets the film into motion. All of the comments online about this movie are true. It's metal as fuck. Red being wrapped in barbed wire, escaping it and healing his wounds with booze, the almost timeless quality of the small town they reside in, as well as the fucking axe that Red melds and wields in the movie, along with the fantastic soundtrack by Johan Johansson, it makes everything flow and meld together perfectly. Red infiltrating the Black Skull encampment is great fun, and we get to see just how depraved this biker gang has become. Apparently, after taking too much of a tainted batch of LSD, the 4 Black Skulls became murder and pillage machines, obsessed only with pain and doling it out. Their Cenobite, Hellraiser look only amplifies their on-screen presence, as well as making them cold, domineering villains for Red to eventually tear apart. After Red steps beyond the veil by snorting whatever drug it is they've left lying around, he joins amongst their ranks in his bloodlust. A couple stops along the way, we get to meet Carruthers, played by an apt Bill Duke, who I just feel was born to play roles like this, delivering cold, chilling stories of omen and warning, all while supplying the goods to help the hero slay some demon ass. Carruthers fucking rocks. Red also visits someone named the Chemist, who has been developing the LSD that the biker gang had been taking and has been distributed to members of Children of the New Dawn. The Chemist works in a warehouse with a giant cage in it housing a fucking tiger. I mean, the stylistic choices in this movie are so fun, random, and just like, it feels like something you'd find on a book that you pulled out of a random like 25-cent book pile in the back of a bookstore. It's so unique. Red begins to tear through the cult members one by one, decapitating, slashing, just demolishing them until he finally reaches Jeremiah Sand. In their final showdown, a sort of cerebral and strobe light effect happens as we see the layers of sand unravel in front of a fearsome enemy like Red. This particular strobe light effect adds a really interesting psychedelic quality to a horror movie that I haven't really seen in a while, or maybe even at all. A skull crusher to the face is an excellent end to Jeremiah's legacy as a frightening villain. We watch as Cage burns down the compound, driving off into the landscape and possibly hallucinating a vision of Mandy riding along with him as he escapes this tormented hellscape. Ultimately, what makes Mandy work is that it feels very polished and tied down. It's a macro level story being told inside a snow globe, where Cosmatos and crew can allow their characters to do crazy shit in a world that feels just real enough to be believable. But then it leans into its psychedelic qualities, which I think allows the Eldritch horror and Hellraiser aspects to feel real as well. The color palette is really important here too. Red, i.e. all the bloodshed, as well as a sort of effervescent purplish pinkish hue, allow a kaleidoscopic look into the lives of Red, Mandy, and Jeremiah. It feels constantly like what the worst parts of LSD feels like, and I think that cinches the overall vibe. Prog rock influence is all over this thing, from the intro needle drop of Starless by King Crimson from their 1974 album Red, as well as the nod to Celtic Frost and the F-shaped axe that Red wields throughout the movie, and of course Jeremiah Sand being a prog-inspired folk musician. It's got all the Yes and Hawkwind vibes you'd want, with a teensy little bit of Judas Priest and Iron Maiden wackiness in there. Enough can't be said of how important Johansson's music is here and his compositions. The synths, guitars, and ambient tones used throughout the movie are just as crucial to the world Cosmatos is building on screen. The only thing that really took me out of the movie was how slow it could feel at times. Cosmatos really lingers in sections scenes of the movie that I don't think he needs to. You can feel the runtime throughout if you give this the time and attention it needs. And being that I was able to watch this from home, I was able to put the subtitles on, I was able to see things that I might have missed in a theatrical experience. It will reward repeat viewings as well as having you raising your fist in the air and head banging along to it. It's a great time, and it's got enough horror elements that it sticks with you after the credits roll. Cosmatos instantly became a director that I want to follow, and I'm heavily anticipating his new movie, Necrocosm, which doesn't yet have a release date. Next up, we have Possessor, a 2020 film starring Andrea Riseborough again, Christopher Abbott, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Sean Bean, and Gabriel Graham. The movie is directed by Brandon Cronenberg, son of the legendary director David Cronenberg, with cinematography done by Karim Hussein. In Possessor, Brandon sets out to do many things tonally, which we'll discuss shortly. As mentioned previously, Andrea Riseborough feels unrecognizable in the lead role of Tasia Voss, an assassin who takes control of other people's bodies in order to carry out hits. The company entity she works for often targets rich, affluent, or criminal-seeming people to assassinate. Measures are put in place to find people within the circle of the target they're trying to assassinate so that Tasia can get in close and get the kill. There's a strange and intriguing concept on how Tasia must leave a gun to the head, i.e. suicide by the possessed, and then Tasia will ask her controller to release her so that the body will be left behind and she'll be able to return to her actual primary existence. This consciousness merging takes a toll on Tasia, and these are some of the best sequences in the movie. As she tries to live her mundane life outside of her day job, like family dinner, having sex with her husband, taking care of her child, memories and phantom hauntings from her previous hits and the body she possessed make it impossible for her to be truly present in her real life. The fragmented sequences where she enters the body of the host played by Christopher Abbott, whose character's name is Colin Tate, are some of the best in the movie. They play like miniature art films, trippy, confusing, and frightening, melting and ripping Riseborough and Abbott's minds and bodies together and apart in extremely disturbing ways. This is where the poster image for the movie, where you see the sort of melted mask face of Andrea Riseborough, when I saw that poster, I knew I immediately had to see this movie. It's all very David Lynch, and I'm here for it. In the opening of the film, which is, I think, the most effective and my favorite part, Tasia takes over a woman named Holly, played by Gabriel Graham. What makes the concept of Possessor so frightening is that we get a glimpse inside the body that Tasia has possessed. The lone tear that goes down Gabriel's face, the total malice and glee that Tasia takes in the violence as she is inside Holly's body is so moving and just off-putting at the same time. To even get a glimpse into the terror that someone feels while their body's been taken over is a vivid and horrific concept to explore. Cronenberg takes instances in the movie to discuss other ideas, such as surveillance through our homes by tech companies akin to Amazon, who we see Colin Tate, or Christopher Abbott's character, working for. As he works for this company, you see that he is made to click through different rooms looking for curtains on the wall. Whatever kind of data is being collected can be added to what we find out are people's houses that are being viewed wherever they've got like their Amazon Alexa or something like that. So what this means is that no matter if you're having an intimate moment and having sex with your partner, you're just doing housework, this company is watching you and paying attention to the drapes and the smartphones and the devices that you're using so they can suggest you ads and send you products that might improve what you already have. The other idea is the urban sprawl that Cronenberg appears to be obsessed with. In several scenes, we are placed in a seemingly endless corridor devoid of color except for brick, utility boxes, piping, and metal. The skyscrapers and cityscapes, the ornate mansion of which Sean Bean's character resides, it all feels devoid of emotion and feeling and is absolutely depressing. Perhaps it's this aspect of the movie that took me out of it a bit. Aside from the intro sequence, the scenes with Abbott's Colin Tate are amongst the best in the movie. He is the first that we know of Tasia's host to fight back to her possession, causing her employer Girder, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, to enter the field with her own host body in hopes of extracting Tasia from her defiant host Colin. I really enjoyed Abbott's interactions with Tasia's target, Sean Bean's John Parse, who is an entity who is smarmy and powerful. Bean's screen presence is undeniable. He's great here, and when Tasia starts laying into him with a fucking fire poker, gets a little bit gruesome. Cronenberg leans into the violent, bloody guts of it here. Tasia is depraved and bloodthirsty, seemingly unable to let herself be freed of a place that is stab, stab, and stab again until Bloody Sunday. And then she'll stab some more. He teeters on unnecessary violence here. Spoilers ahead, and you've been warned. The killing of Tasia's husband and her child felt completely outside of the mission of what the film set out to do. The coldness and sickening feeling that came over me just hurt, and it made me hate Tasia. And I'm realizing now, maybe that is the point. Maybe that is what Cronenberg set out to do. And while it wasn't her fault, it was Colin taking control of his body, using her family as hostage and bait. You also kind of get the impression she didn't mind them getting killed. She didn't mind them getting hurt. And that the assassin in her just wanted to kill, kill, kill. It was hard to watch. Now, at first you think that Tasia has passed on her bloodlust to her son, Ira, who we see eventually killing Tate. But with that, Ira gets killed as well. And we find out that Girder, her employer, had taken over Ira's body and then subsequently committed suicide in order to extract and save Tasia here. Now, Tasia has no connection to the outside world. She can be a full-time assassin. She has no real-world tendrils to pull her back to reality. And she also knows that her employer used her son as a means to an end. It's so cold in here. This coldness is the crux of Possessor. In the moments where Tasia is removed from her host body and made to go through memory exercises to test if her mind is still intact after leaving a host, a butterfly is brought up. She expresses no remorse for killing it, to which Girder responds, "Very good." Tasia's had her life stolen from her. Very much like the implication of Amazon stealing our privacy and skyscrapers and cityscapes being a part of the toxic pollution and overpopulation on our planet, has stolen this human aspect of our lives from us. And this is where the true horror of Possessor lies in wait. Are we ever truly in control of our lives? Are we forever being influenced by an outside voice, pushed in a direction that is the worst of the sum of our parts? The butterfly is an interesting insect to evoke here, as Tasia's white getup as she goes into her new host is akin to almost a cocoon where she can metamorph. She comes back a little bit changed each time, a little bit more violent, a little bit unwilling to end her bloodlust. The music in the movie, done by Jim Williams, services the mood that Cronenberg is going for. Williams did the score for Raw as well, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, so definitely check that one out as well. Now, the final consensus questions. Do I think Possessor is a good movie? Yeah, I would say it is. It hits the beats that it's going for, leaves us with a bleak message about not only Tasia, but the world of Possessor itself, and even our real world. That said, the movie can be hard tonally to pin down. The bleakness throughout is almost too depressing for me. And as someone who responds to movies differently based on my mental state, we'll just say Possessor wasn't a walk on the beach. It's a tough watch and can feel like a slog at times. It also feels like Cronenberg was swinging at many different targets here, and I think I would have liked to see him focus a little bit more on the character building of Tasia, Colin, and some of the others. But I also see that he was going for a particular vibe about where humanity is going. People are becoming increasingly more cold with the advent of technology that is changing our lives for the good, is what we're being told, I guess. Is Possessor a movie I would recommend? 1000% yes. Now you might be asking, Jake, why is that? You know, you said this movie was a slog, you said it was slow. Yes, it is. It might not be for everybody, but I think there are people out there who will respond better to the movie's messaging than I will, because the overall messaging of the movie is important and is something that everyone should watch and contemplate. As I am currently reading the book Legion by William Peter Blatty, there's a scene where the main character, Detective Kinderman, is out to lunch with his friend Father Dyer, and they've just gone to see a screening of The Maltese Falcon. Kinderman suggests that they go grab a bite to eat and discuss and criticize the movie. This is exactly what movies are made for. They are made to be enjoyed with people, with yourself, with a forum, with a message board, to discuss the intricacies, to discuss the things you love, to discuss the things that you didn't like so much and what you think might have worked better. It's a place to bring people together. Possessor being a depressing, cold movie doesn't mean that it's not an enjoyable experience to share with yourself and others. So yeah, I definitely recommend it, and it's a great talking point at the very least. It should be picked apart and discussed, and even as I wrote the script for this episode, my personal admiration for it grew and grew, so I think that'll be the case for other people too. Brandon Cronenberg is another intriguing voice in the cinema landscape and someone that I've been meaning to follow closer for a while now. Based on the synopsis of his most recent movie, Infinity Pool, and the fact that Tim Hecker did the score, I'll definitely be watching that one in the future, and I may even discuss it on the channel. Anyway, please make sure to check out both Mandy and Possessor, and let's give it up for Andrea Riseborough. She is the unsung MVP of these movies. If you liked this video, please consider liking and hitting that subscribe button so that you will be notified about all the upcoming new episodes of Curtis Reviews in the future. Until next time, thank you for watching and peace out.